I want you to start off today by just picturing a pomegranate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just close your eyes for a second. Well, I mean, obviously not if you're driving.
Right, keep your eyes on the road.
Exactly. But really try to visualize it. Hold that like heavy spherical fruit in your hand. You have that thick, leathery, almost armor-like skin on the outside, right?
Yeah, it's very distinct.
And then, you break it open, and the inside is just an architectural marvel. It's divided into these distinct, pale-walled, segmented chambers. And packed inside those chambers are dozens of little jewel-like, juice-filled seeds.
It's basically nature's version of a fortified vault.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so now I want you to clear that image completely. Just wipe the slate, and I want you to picture an orange.
Okay, totally different vibe.
Right, completely different experience. It's a different taste, a different color. I mean, it grows on a completely different type of tree in a different climate. But what if I told you that structurally, mathematically, and even from the perspective of an ancient survivalist, an orange and a pomegranate might actually belong to the exact same biological and botanical category?
I mean, it sounds absurd on the surface,
Yeah.
right? Especially to a modern ear.
Totally.
We are so conditioned to just separate things by, like, commercial labels in a grocery store.
Yeah.
We're trained to see an orange as strictly an orange and a pomegranate as a pomegranate.
Right.
But there's actually a completely different way to read the biology of the planet.
And unlocking that different way of reading the world, that is our mission for today's deep dive. We are looking at this radical new framework that translates ancient texts not through the usual lens of, pure linguistics or history.
Right, which is what we usually see.
Exactly. But through modern evolutionary biology and structural botany. It's a system that basically proves our ancestors weren't just like arbitrarily naming plants.
No, not at all. They were
Yeah.
actually coding incredibly sophisticated survival blueprints.
Yes. They were categorizing the natural world based on functional architecture rather than invisible genetic barcodes.
And all of this, I mean, this entire paradigm shift comes from a massive, groundbreaking system created entirely by Dr. Khaled Waleed.
Right.
It's formally called the Morphological Semantic Quranic Plant Classification Model. I know that is a bit of a mouthful of an academic title.
It is a lot of words, yeah.
But what Dr. Waleed has actually done here, it's going to completely shatter how you categorize every single plant, vegetable, and piece of fruit you ever encounter.
Because Dr. Waleed's foundational premise, it challenges this massive blind spot we have in modern historical interpretation, right?
Absolutely. Because for centuries, traditional translators and linguists have basically locked ancient Quranic plant names into single, specific, modern biological species.
Right. So like if an ancient text has a word that has historically been translated as fig, the tradition basically dictates that it strictly, exclusively, and forever means Ficus carica.
Right. The exact commercial fig you buy at the farmer's market today.
Yeah. And if the text says the word for pomegranate, they say it mathematically equals Punica granatum and literally nothing else.
Which is just an incredibly restrictive and, frankly, scientifically anachronistic way to read an ancient text.
Why is that?
Well, you have to ask yourself, did ancient humans living thousands of years ago really categorize their world using the Linnaean system of binomial nomenclature?
I'm going to guess no, considering Carl Linnaeus didn't even invent that system until, what, the 1700s?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Linnaeus gave us the system we use today, genus and species,
Oh.
Homo sapiens, Tyrannosaurus rex.
Right.
And it's brilliant for indexing the exact genetic uniqueness of an organism in a laboratory. But ancient human beings interacting with their environment, they didn't sequence DNA to decide what a plant was.
No, obviously not.
They categorized the world by how a plant functioned in their actual lives. So Dr. Waleed argues that these ancient botanical terms were never meant to be read as modern taxonomic labels.
Okay.
Instead, he proves they are what he calls plant semantic fields.
Okay. Plant semantic fields. We definitely need to unpack this carefully because this concept is really the engine driving the rest of our deep dive today. So what is Dr. Waleed actually defining here?
So a plant semantic field, according to Dr. Waleed's model, means that an ancient word isn't just pointing to one isolated genetic species. It's pointing to a broad morphological, functional, and ecological group.
And morphology just means...
It just means the physical form and structure, the architecture of the plant.
Okay, got it.
So Dr. Waleed is looking at the anatomy, the specific type of fruit it bears, its life cycle, and its ecological purpose. He is basically taking ancient linguistic history, running it through the lens of modern botany, and revealing this rigorous universal botanical code.
Let me see if I can ground this for the listener with an analogy, because when I first read Dr. Waleed's papers, my brain fought the concept a little bit.
Oh, sure. It's a big shift.
It is. So think about the word vehicle. If a historian from, let's say, the year 3000 finds a document from the year 1920, and the document says he escaped in a vehicle, that historian shouldn't translate vehicle to mean exclusively and specifically a 2015 Honda Civic.
That is a brilliant way to frame it, because if they translate vehicle as exactly and only a 2015 Honda Civic, they completely miss the presence of pickup trucks, city buses, and even like bicycles, which all serve the exact same structural and functional purpose within that broader semantic field.
Because the word vehicle describes a function, right? A human-made object with wheels meant to transport you from point A to point B.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed is showing us that translating ancient botanical terms into single modern commercial species is just like translating vehicle into Honda Civic.
Wow. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
You are artificially narrowing a vast, functional, ecologically significant category into this tiny commercial one.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Khaled Waleed's primary rule, the absolute bedrock of his entire model, is that a Quranic plant name equals a morphological functional category, not a single modern commercial species.
And once you accept that methodological shift, like once you stop looking for the Honda Civic and start looking for the mechanism of transportation, the whole natural world just opens up in this incredibly beautiful way.
It really does.
It's like finding out you've been reading a map upside down. You thought you were looking at a list of grocery items, but Dr. Waleed reveals you are actually looking at a complex diagram of human survival.
And the way Dr. Waleed organizes these semantic fields is just a masterclass in survival ecology. He groups them into major functional tiers, starting right from the ground up.
Okay, so let's start at the ground level. Dr. Waleed's first major tier is what we can call the hydrating and aromatic sector.
Right, and this sector focuses on three specific semantic fields in Dr. Waleed's model.
Right.
Bakal, Kelfa, and Basil.
Okay, Bakal, Keffa, and Basil.
Yeah. If you put yourself in the shoes of an ancient human, your most immediate daily concern is hydration and basic physiological maintenance.
Right, you need water and nutrients today.
Exactly. These three fields represent plants that grow very close to the ground, they have short, rapid life cycles, and functionally, they are there to hydrate the body and provide immediate, fresh, short-term nutrients.
Let's break these down, starting with Bakwal. Now, traditionally, translators might just lazily translate this word as herbs, or maybe green fodder.
Yeah, that's common.
But Dr. Waleed defines Bakal much more rigorously as herbaceous edible plants.
And we have to look at the specific morphology he outlines for this field. Under Dr. Waleed's model, Bakal refers to herbaceous plants characterized by soft stems, green leaves, and what botanists call soft parenchymal tissues.
Hold on, parenchymal tissues. You're going to have to translate that for me.
Oh, fair enough. So in botany, parenchyma is basically the fundamental tissue of a plant.
Okay.
It's the soft, fleshy, cellular stuff that makes up the bulk of leaves, the inside of stems, and the pulp of fruits. It's highly active in metabolism and photosynthesis, and crucially, it holds a lot of water.
Oh, I see.
So when Dr. Waleed points to soft parenchymal tissues, he's talking about the tender, fleshy parts of a plant that you can easily chew and digest.
Ah, okay. So it's like the stuff that crunches when you bite into a piece of fresh celery or lettuce.
Precisely. Functionally, this is the dietary layer of daily fresh vegetation. These are plants that are eaten fresh or lightly cooked.
Right.
Now, what's crucial here is that Dr. Waleed notes this semantic field absolutely does not belong to just one modern plant family. It spans across multiple genetic families. It includes the Amaranthaceae family, the Brassicaceae family, and even some Fabaceae.
So wait, we are talking about spinach, arugula, lettuce, cabbage, maybe even the tender leafy greens from a certain bean plant.
Exactly.
But genetically, a spinach plant and a cabbage plant are totally different.
They are. But under Dr. Waleed's Bakal semantic field, they are functionally the exact same thing. They share that soft-stemmed, leafy, fresh-eating architecture.
Wow, they occupy the identical ecological and dietary needs?
Exactly. Then we move to the second field in this ground-level sector, Keytha. And Dr. Waleed maps this with even more morphological precision. He defines Keytha as the soft cucurbit group.
Cucurbit? That's the gourd family, right?
It maps closely to the Cucurbitaceae family, yes. But Dr. Waleed isn't just pointing to a genetic family. He's outlining a highly specific architectural rule set.
Okay, what are the rules?
The morphological pattern here requires creeping or climbing vines, very soft, almost hairy stems, and a highly specific botanical fruit type known as a pepo.
Let's pause on the pepo. What structurally makes a fruit a pepo?
A pepo is a fleshy, watery fruit that develops from what we call an inferior ovary.
Inferior ovary.
Yeah, meaning the fruit grows beneath the petals of the flower, not inside them. It is characterized by having many seeds scattered throughout a fleshy interior, all surrounded by a relatively thin but firm outer exocarp or skin.
So I'm trying to picture this in my kitchen right now. Under Dr. Waleed's model, a zucchini, a cucumber, and a honeydew melon, do they all share the Keitha identity?
They absolutely do.
Because they are all pepo-type fruits growing on soft, creeping vines. That is fascinating. You aren't saying a cucumber is a melon.
No, definitely not.
You are saying that to someone managing their survival in a semi-arid landscape, a cucumber and a melon are the exact same biological tool.
And that is the genius of Dr. Waleed's functional ecology. These plants are the hydration engines of the ancient world.
Right.
If you are in a harsh, arid environment, you don't care about the minor genetic differences between a squash and a cucumber. You care that this specific morphological architecture, the creeping vine and the fleshy pepo, pulls water from the soil and stores it in a portable, edible biological water bottle. The Keitha group provides immense water content.
It's pure bioengineering. It's incredible. And rounding out this ground-level sector, we have basil, which Dr. Waleed defines as the aromatic bulbous group.
The morphology here is unmistakable and honestly universal. Dr. Waleed describes underground bulbous structures, tubular or hollow green leaves that shoot up from the base, and the heavy presence of sulfur-based aromatic compounds. Botanically, this maps perfectly to the allium genus.
Oh, onions, garlic, leeks, shallots.
Exactly.
Yeah, they all have that swollen bulb base, those tube-like green shoots, and that intense, pungent, sulfury smell that makes your eyes water when you chop them.
You've got it. And why the sulfur? From a biological standpoint, it's a defense mechanism against pests in the soil.
Sure.
But from a functional human standpoint, these aromatic compounds are crucial for balancing human physiological functions, acting as antimicrobial agents, and providing essential dietary balance.
So if we step back and look at this whole hydrating and aromatic sector, baqual for leafy nutrients, Keitha for fleshy hydration, and basil for aromatic bulbs, Dr. Waleed is showing us that ancient texts weren't just listing random vegetables.
Not at all.
They were outlining the complete botanical toolkit for daily human maintenance.
It's the daily baseline. But, as you know, basic hydration and fresh greens only solve the problem of today.
Right. A cucumber is a lifesaver on a hot Tuesday in July. But if you are in ancient civilizations staring down a 6-month drought or a freezing barren winter, a cucumber is entirely useless.
It just rots.
Exactly. You need biology that can pause itself. You need a battery. Which brings us to how Dr. Waleed categorized the plants that act as biological batteries, the staple sector.
This is where human history actually gets made. You cannot build a civilization, you cannot build cities or armies without the staple sector.
Wow.
Dr. Waleed explores 3 semantic fields here: foam, edis, and zar. This is the material foundation of long-term human survival, entirely based on a plant's capability to be stored as dry energy.
Let's dig into foam first. Dr. Waleed defines this as the starchy staple crops.
Right. Functionally, Dr. Waleed notes that foam must be starchy crops that can be harvested dry, stored for years without spoiling, and then milled into flour and baked.
Makes sense.
But to prove this isn't just a culinary category, he grounds it botanically. He maps foam strictly to the Caryopsis fruit type.
Okay, Caryopsis, I definitely need you to unpack that one.
Yeah.
Because when I hear the word fruit, my brain immediately goes to an apple or a peach. It does not go to a grain of wheat. How is wheat a fruit?
It's counterintuitive, I know. But in botany, a fruit is simply the mature seed-bearing ovary of a flowering plant.
Okay.
A Caryopsis is a highly specialized type of simple dry fruit. What makes it unique is that the ovary wall, the part that would be the fleshy, sweet part of a peach, is microscopic, and it is firmly physically fused with the seed coat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're practically one indistinguishable layer. It's what we commonly call a grain.
Okay, so the protective skin and the seed are essentially welded together.
Exactly. But the most important mechanism, the reason Dr. Waleed zeroes in on the Caryopsis for the foam category, is what's inside that welded shell, the starchy endosperm.
The biological battery pack.
Yes. The endosperm is a dense, dry matrix of complex carbohydrates, starch. Evolutionary speaking, the plant created that starch vault to provide energy for its own embryo to survive the winter and sprout in the spring.
But humans figured out how to hijack that energy vault.
We did. Because the Caryopsis is naturally dry and packed tightly in a hard fused coat, it doesn't contain the water that causes a soft fruit to rot.
Right.
Dr. Waleed points out that foam encompasses the entire Poaceae family. The grasses, wheat, barley, corn, millet, rice. Any botanical architecture that functions as a stored, starchy Caryopsis that you can grind into flour belongs to the foam semantic field.
That is incredibly elegant, and it perfectly sets up the next field in this sector. Atis, which Dr. Waleed defines as the small-seeded pulses. We're talking about the Fabaceae family here, right? Legumes.
Yes, if foam is your foundational carbohydrate energy, Atis is your foundational protein.
Okay.
Morphologically, Dr. Waleed defines these as plants that produce true pods, botanically called legumes, which split open along two seams to reveal small, dry seeds.
So lentils, chickpeas, split peas, broad beans.
Exactly. And functionally, they serve the exact same long-term survival purpose as the Caryopsis. They are dry, they are dense, and they can be stored indefinitely in a clay jar or a silo.
But instead of starch, they're packed with protein.
Right, high-quality protein and amino acids. Together, foam and Atis provide the complete macronutritional profile required to survive a winter.
Okay, so we have foam for starch and Atis for protein. But then Dr. Waleed introduces this third term in the staple sector, ZAR.
Yes, ZAR.
He defines ZAR as general field crops. And I really have to push back here because when I was reviewing Dr. Waleed's notes, this felt completely redundant to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If foam is a field of wheat and ZAR is a field crop, aren't they just describing the exact same thing? Why would an ancient, hyper-efficient language have two different semantic fields for wheat?
I love that you brought this up because this potential confusion actually highlights the sheer brilliance of Dr. Waleed's framework.
Okay, lay it on me.
You have to think ecologically here. You have to separate the physical object from the environmental footprint it creates.
Interesting.
In Dr. Waleed's model, foam refers to the functional starchy seed itself. It is the physical grain, the Caryopsis, the tiny object you hold in your hand, store in a sack, and grind between two stones.
Okay, so foam is the physical ingredient.
Yes, but ZAR is the life form and the environmental layer. It refers to the ecological practice of being an agricultural field crop. ZAR encompasses anything that is planted en masse in wide open fields, growing collectively as a uniform carpet of vegetation.
Oh.
It forms the basis of large-scale agriculture.
Oh, wow. Okay, let me see if I'm tracking this. So a massive waving field of wheat covering a hillside is ZAR. But the millions of little individual starchy seeds it produces are foam.
You've got it. It's the difference between describing the architecture of a single brick versus describing the architecture of the entire wall.
That's a great way to put it.
But it goes deeper. A field of wheat is ZAR and yields foam. A field of lentils is ZAR and yields Atis. But even a massive field of alfalfa, grown purely as fodder for animals, falls under the semantic field of ZAR. It isn't starchy, it isn't protein for humans, but it fulfills the ecological and architectural role of being a mass-planted field crop.
That distinction is profound because it shows that this taxonomy isn't just about what ends up on a plate. It's about how humans interact with the landscape itself. It's like land management coded into language.
It really is.
Okay, so we've covered the plants that hydrate us at the ground level, and we've covered the dense staple crops that sustain basic life through the winter. Now, Dr. Waleed takes us upwards. We look to the canopy.
Yes, the canopy.
We're talking about the plants that provide high-value energy, complex sugars, and rich oils. Dr. Waleed calls this the fleshy and oil sector.
And this sector is where Dr. Waleed's morphological analysis becomes truly breathtaking. We're looking at perennial trees, complex vines, and highly engineered fruit structures.
Right.
The semantic fields he decodes here are zaytoun, nakhil, enab, teen, and rumman.
Let's start with zaytoun. Traditionally, if you ask almost any translator, they will tell you this word simply translates to the olive tree. Just Olea europea, that's it.
Yes, very strictly.
But Dr. Waleed broadens this dramatically to oil-bearing drupes.
To understand why he does this, we have to look at the mechanical definition of a drupe.
Okay.
A drupe is a very specific botanical architecture. It is a fleshy fruit with a thin skin on the outside, a flecky mesocarp in the middle, and critically, a single, highly lignified hard pit or stone in the center that protects the seed.
A peach is a drupe, right?
Yes, exactly. A peach is a drupe, a cherry is a drupe, a plum is a drupe, and of course an olive is a drupe.
Right.
Dr. Waleed's model states that the zaytoun semantic field isn't arbitrarily limited to the modern olive tree. It encompasses any perennial tree producing a specific type of drupe, what is rich in lipids and functions ecologically and economically to be pressed for its oil.
So wait, under Dr. Waleed's model, if an ancient civilization had access to an oil-producing almond, because an almond is technically the seed of a drupe-like fruit, right?
Yes, it is.
Or a specific oil-rich variety of peach, would that technically fit into the zeytin category?
Completely. Because the structural engineering of fleshy drupe with a hard pit and the functional human output pressing that flesh or seed for high-value lipid oil is identical.
Wow.
Dr. Waleed proves they categorize by biological architecture and human utility, not by the arbitrary Latin names we use today.
That makes total sense. Next in the canopy, we have Nakheel, which he defines as the palmiform trees. Now, obviously, this immediately makes you think of date palms.
It does, but again, Dr. Waleed looks past the specific species and looks at the structural life form.
Right.
He defines the morphology of Nakheel as a tall, single, unbranched trunk topped with a massive radiating leafy crown which produces clustered fruits. Botanically, this maps perfectly to the Ericaceae family.
Meaning coconuts.
Yes, coconut.
Because a coconut tree has that exact same architecture. A single unbranched trunk, a massive leafy crown, and it produces clustered fruit. So a date palm in the desert and a coconut palm on a tropical beach, despite producing completely different tasting fruits, are mathematically the exact same structural life form in Dr. Waleed's framework.
They belong to the identical semantic field of Nakheel.
Incredible.
Next, Dr. Waleed explores Enab, which he defines as the berry cluster vines. Morphologically, these are non-self-supporting climbing plants, vines that produce true botanical berries, growing in distinct cascading clusters.
Okay, let me stop you at true botanical berries, because botanical naming conventions are notoriously confusing. Like, I know a strawberry actually isn't a true berry and neither is a raspberry, so what is the actual structural requirement here?
It is super confusing. In botany, a true berry is a fleshy fruit produced entirely from a single ovary of a single flower, and the entire outer layer of the ovary wall ripens into a potentially edible pericarp. There is no hard pit.
Okay, no hard pit.
Grapes are true berries. Blueberries are true berries. Tomatoes are true berries.
Right, I've heard the tomato one.
But for the Enab semantic field, Dr. Waleed requires two more structural layers.
Yeah.
The plant must be a climbing vine, and the true berries must grow in complex clusters.
So Anab isn't just the Vetus genus, the modern grape. It means any climbing vine in nature that produces clusters of small, fleshy, true berries.
Exactly. It's a structural category of canopy climbing sugar production.
Okay. I've been waiting for this next one. Teen. This is traditionally translated strictly and exclusively as the common fig, Ficus carica.
Right.
But Dr. Waleed maps the semantic field to a highly complex botanical structure called the syconium. And I need you to break down the mechanics of the syconium for the listener, because when I read Dr. Waleed's analysis of this, it completely blew my mind. I will literally never look at a fig the same way again.
It really is one of the most bizarre and fascinating structures in all of botany. Normally, when we think of a fruit developing, we picture a flower blooming openly on a branch.
Yeah.
A bee lands on it, pollinates it, the petals fall off, and the base of the flower swells into a fruit. An apple, for instance.
Right, the classic fruit cycle we all learn about.
But a syconium does not do that. A syconium is essentially an inside-out flower.
What?
It is a fleshy, hollow receptacle that is closed in on itself, forming a sac. And the actual flowers, dozens or hundreds of tiny individual flowers are blooming on the inside walls of that dark, enclosed space.
Like a biological terrarium. A hidden, sealed garden.
That is a perfect description. It's a closed terrarium. Now, because those flowers are sealed inside, wind or regular bees can't pollinate them. So the syconium architecture necessitates a highly specialized, almost microscopic wasp.
Oh, wow.
The wasp squeezes through a tiny pore at the base of the syconium, pollinates the internal flowers, and usually dies inside.
Wait, dies inside?
Yep. Then those hundreds of internally pollinated flowers develop into tiny individual hard seeds, all embedded in that dense, fleshy pulp. That entire bizarre composite structure is the syconium.
So when you are eating a fig, you aren't eating a single fruit. You are eating an inverted bouquet of hundreds of microscopic flowers and seeds.
Exactly. And Dr. Waleed argues that the semantic field of teen is defined by this exact, complex, composite, fleshy structure packed with tiny seeds.
Okay.
Yes, it absolutely includes the common fig, but morphologically, it also includes things like mulberries.
Wait, mulberries? But mulberries don't look like figs at all. They look like long blackberries.
Visually on the outside, yes. But botanically, the mulberry belongs to the exact same family as the fig, the Moraceae family.
Really?
And while the mulberry doesn't completely invert and seal itself like a fig, it is a multiple fruit formed from a cluster of flowers whose fleshy parts fuse together into a very similar composite structure. Dr. Waleed shows that the teen category is the semantic home for these dense, composite, multiple flower fleshy structures.
That is incredible. But okay, this brings us to the absolute climax of Dr. Waleed's botanical analysis, the aha moment of this entire deep dive, the rumen.
The rumen, yes.
As we talked about at the very beginning of the show, this word is universally translated as the pomegranate.
Punica granatum, yes.
But Dr. Waleed defines the rumen's semantic field based on a very rigorous biological architecture. He states it must be a multi-chambered, multi-seeded structure surrounded by a leathery or double leathery outer layer with juice vesicles surrounding the seeds.
That is the definitive structural code of the rumen.
So this is where we come back to the hook of our show. Dr. Waleed mathematically proves that an orange or a lemon or a grapefruit belongs in the rumen botanical model right alongside the pomegranate. I need you to explain the mechanics of how an orange fits this code.
Let's look closely at the internal anatomy of citrus fruits, which belong to the Rutaceae family. Botanists classify the fruit of a citrus tree as a Hesperidium.
What exactly is a Hesperidium?
A Hesperidium is a highly modified, specialized berry. Its most defining feature is a thick, leathery outer rind, which contains volatile oils. Just inside that leathery rind is a spongy white layer called the albedo.
Right, the bitter white stuff.
Exactly. Then, as you move deeper into the fruit, it is divided into distinct, separate segments or chambers called carpels. And finally, packed tightly inside those segmented chambers are hundreds of specialized hair cells that have filled with liquid to become juice vesicles, and they surround the seeds.
Leathery rind, segmented chambers, seeds surrounded by juice vesicles. I mean, that is exactly the architectural blueprint of a pomegranate.
Precisely. Now, Dr. Waleed acknowledges that the fine microscopic internal anatomy has evolutionary differences. But the macrostructure, the functional morphology, a tough, leathery outer skin acting as armor to protect segmented, highly juicy, multi-seeded compartments, is completely parallel.
Wow.
It is the exact same bioengineering solution to the same environmental problem.
Which is protecting water and seeds in a hot climate.
Yes. Dr. Waleed includes citrus in the rumen semantic field because they share this protective, multi-chambered biological architecture. He is proving that ancient human categorization wasn't ignorant or primitive.
Right, far from it.
It was deeply, astonishingly observant of macro patterns in nature patterns that we often completely ignore today because we are so zoomed in on microscopic DNA sequencing.
It's breathtaking. Dr. Waleed has basically decoded a universal botanical language. But as a skeptic, I have to ask, how do we prove this is scientifically rigorous?
That's the big question.
How do we know Dr. Waleed didn't just invent a really clever, poetic way to group plants together? This brings us to the final, most complex phase of his work, the master matrix, phylogenetics, and mathematical ontology. This is where Dr. Waleed stops talking about linguistics and starts doing hard math and evolutionary genetics.
And this is truly where Dr. Waleed's work elevates from a brilliant historical theory into an undeniable, hard scientific framework. He takes all of these semantic fields we've just discussed, Bacall, foam, zaytun, rumen, and he overlays them directly onto the phylogenetic tree.
All right, let's establish a baseline for the listener. What is the phylogenetic tree?
The phylogenetic tree is essentially the evolutionary family tree of all living things on Earth. It traces how species evolved and branched off from common ancestors over millions of years based on genetic data.
Right.
In this specific case, Dr. Waleed maps his categories onto the section of the tree dealing with angiosperms, which are all the flowering plants.
And flowering plants, angiosperms, are split into two massive evolutionary branches at the very base of their tree, right? The monocots and the eudicots.
Correct. This is a fundamental divergence in plant evolution that happened well over 100 million years ago. Monocots generally start their lives with one single seed leaf when they sprout.
Okay.
Visually, you can spot them because their adult leaf veins run parallel to each other. Think of how the lines run straight up and down a blade of grass, or a palm frond, or a leek.
In the eudicots?
Eudicots start with two seed leaves, and visually, their leaf veins form a complex, branching, net-like pattern. Think of maple leaf, or an oak leaf, or the leaf of a grapevine.
Got it.
Now, here is where Dr. Waleed's discovery becomes genuinely mind-bending. When he mapped his functionally derived semantic fields onto this evolutionary tree, he found that they didn't scatter randomly.
No.
They aligned perfectly with these deep, ancient evolutionary branches.
Walk me through the mapping. Where do all the staple crops go?
All the foundational staples, the ground-level bulbs, and the palms map perfectly onto the monocot branch.
So foam the starchy grains.
Yes, foam, zar the field grasses, basil the allium bulbs like onions, and achil the palmiform trees. Every single one of these semantic fields sits firmly within the monocot lineage, specifically clustered in evolutionary orders like poios and asparagales.
That is wild. And what about the other side of the tree? The eudicots.
The eudicot branch exclusively houses all of the complex fleshy fruits, the vines, and the protein pulses. So rumen, the leathery multi-chambered fruits. Teen, the syconium composite fruits. Anab, the berry clusters, and Aetus, the protein-heavy legumes. They all sit perfectly on the eudicot branch, organized beautifully in orders like myrtales, roselles, and febales.
Okay, stop and think about what this actually means. Dr. Waleed is proving that these ancient morphological categories aren't arbitrary.
Not at all.
They aren't just random groupings made up by ancient farmers who didn't know any better. They actually reflect genuine evolutionary divergence. The ancient semantic fields naturally split along the exact same lines that modern geneticists use to map the evolution of the planet.
It is a stunning mathematical validation of the entire model. Dr. Waleed has proven that our ancestors, purely through meticulous observation of physical form and ecological function, arrived at the exact same organizational truths as modern DNA sequencing.
Unbelievable.
But, incredibly, he didn't even stop there. He wanted to ensure this model was mathematically flawless, so he applied what is called a mathematical ontology to the framework, specifically utilizing graph theory.
Graph theory. Okay, this is high-level mathematics. Let me see if I can translate the mechanics of this for the listener.
Go for it.
In graph theory, you have nodes and you have edges. Let's imagine a social network like Facebook. In a social network graph, every person is a node, and the friendship connection between two people is the edge.
Exactly.
Is it fair to say Dr. Waleed basically built a mathematical social network map for the entire plant kingdom?
That is a highly accurate and accessible way to visualize it, yes. But instead of mapping human relationships, Dr. Waleed is mathematically mapping the structural rules of nature. In his graph model, the nodes represent the actual semantic fields he defined, the rumen node, the anab node, the baqual node, etc.
And what are the edges connecting them? Because they aren't, going to the same high school.
No, the edges represent shared, quantifiable structural characteristics. This is why graph theory is so crucial here. Biological life isn't a linear list. It's an interconnected web of recurring physical solutions. Dr. Waleed uses math to map these solutions.
Give me a concrete example of how an edge works in Dr. Waleed's plant network.
Let's take the edge he labels mathematically as a leathery. This edge represents the biological trait of evolving a thick, leathery outer rind. In Dr. Waleed's mathematical matrix, that specific leathery edge draws a direct, verifiable line connecting the rumen node, the pomegranate, straight to the citrus node.
Wow.
Or consider the composite edge, which represents the trait of having a composite, integrated, fleshy structure. That specific edge mathematically links the teen node, the fig, directly to the mulberry node.
So he hasn't just created a list of plants, he has created a quantifiable, mathematically rigorous web of life. It's a living network showing how bioengineering repeats itself across different environments to solve the same survival problems.
Exactly. Dr. Khaled Waleed hasn't just translated a few ancient words. He has codified a universal, mathematically proven system of biological architecture.
Which is absolutely staggering. And it brings us to the end of our journey today. We have traveled through the entirety of Dr. Khaled Waleed's morphological semantic classification model, and honestly, my brain is buzzing.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. I don't think I will ever be able to look at a salad or a fruit bowl the same way again. We've moved from seeing a fig as just a single isolated species to understanding it as a complex syconium structure, a biological terrarium belonging to a massive semantic field of clustered inverted fruits.
Right.
We've seen how wheat and barley aren't just plants, they are foam, the biological hard drives of storable starchy energy that literally built human civilization.
And most importantly, we've seen how Dr. Waleed proved that these ancient functional categories map flawlessly onto modern evolutionary genetics and complex mathematical graph theory. He forces us to train our brains to look past the modern commercial label of a plant and see its true architecture.
Exactly. And that is the ultimate takeaway. Why should you, the listener, care about this deep dive into morphological botany because Dr. Waleed has given you a completely new lens through which to view the world.
He really has.
The next time you walk through a grocery store or plant a backyard garden or hike through a wild forest, you don't need to feel overwhelmed trying to memorize 1,000 different Latin binomial names. You just need to look at the form, the function, and the ecological purpose of the plant in front of you.
Yeah, you just ask yourself what it's doing.
Right. Is that creeping vine with a watery fruit a kifa trying to hydrate you? Is that dry pod an addis providing you with winter protein? Dr. Waleed's framework connects you back to the natural world in the exact way our ancestors were connected to it through deep, practical, and highly intelligent observation.
It's about recognizing the deliberate, recurring patterns of nature, rather than getting lost in the microscopic, invisible details that separate us from the environment.
Beautifully said. And I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought today, inspired directly by the deepest layers of Dr. Waleed's conclusions. Throughout this deep dive, we spent a lot of time talking about the rummen, that leathery, multi-chambered fruit category that houses both the pomegranate and the citrus.
Right, nature's vault.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed suggests that the rummen doesn't just represent a physical shape, it represents a fundamental biological architecture of protection and fortification. It is nature's vault, deliberately engineered to lock away its most precious, delicate, juice-filled seeds behind a thick, armored wall, ensuring survival in the harshest climates.
Incredible to think about.
It is. So the next time you sit down to peel back the thick, leathery skin of an orange, or you break open the heavy, segmented rind of a pomegranate, ask yourself what other hidden bioengineering codes are sitting right there in your fruit bowl. What other messages are waiting to be read, not as random, isolated species, but as a deliberate, universally connected language of nature.
It certainly makes you wonder what else we've been misreading this whole time.
It really does. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive